Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of I Lost It at the Movies. And today we have Hana Al Rashid here with us. She's an actress. She has an eclectic filmography ranging from sitcoms, horrors to dramas. I first saw her in Aruna dan Lidahnya, and since then she started to become this ubiquitous figure on the screen. And she now has a internet personality, which I really admire. Her love for literature, that authentic passion that she has for reading and appreciating the arts is also so infectious. And she doesn't come off as pretentious at all. She's genuinely in love with the books that she's reading and the films that she's watching. So that's why I want to have her here, because she's a certified cinephile. And as pretentious as that word can come across, and I think it means someone who is deeply passionate about cinema. And I thought, she would make a fantastic guest. So thank you for coming here. Thank you for making the time.
Thank you for having me.
I mean, it has been a very tense week for our country.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you making the time. We're going to try and have fun talking about movies, despite it all, right? But I also think this is going to be an important episode and timely, because we're going to talk about the movie. How do you pronounce it again?
Lain.
Yes. Lain, which I think is very fitting considering our... Oh my God, I was thinking about it all night. I was like, this is perfect. So yeah, I think it's very fitting considering our political climate in our country right now. So again, despite it all, thank you so much for making the time, and let's get started. So how are you? How are you feeling?
Oh, a lot
Yeah.
of feelings
Yeah.
in the past few days, honestly. Quite shocked that I felt so much. I think I think we're all thinking and feeling the same thing, see. But yeah, there's a collective grief
Yeah.
at the moment, which is pretty hard to navigate, actually.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. It's been
especially concerning, like, a direct driver, someone that we meet every single
Yep.
day in our
Yep.
lives. Jadi, I think it's really woken up a lot of people. See,
right.
Yeah.
It's an important time, I think,
yeah, it
in our
very much
country,
is.
and like I think it's very important to see how the country moves forward, how the government moves forward, and how we move forward,
Yeah.
right? Well, we'll get to that later with
Yeah, absolutely.
So I want to start with your first movie, right? You picked Mulan and Moana. Well, yeah, I'm combining those two, but so tell me about it. Like, when did you see it? Who were you with, and how did you feel?
It's interesting because I originally had chosen The Lion King.
Right. Yeah.
But obviously, like Luki already
Yeah.
mentioned that, because that is an experience that I remember so clearly. But
Mm-hmm.
there seems to be a crossover for me personally, because The Lion King, I remember watching. That's the first film I watched in the cinema, and Mufasa's my dad. Like, for me, Mufasa's my dad. All the energy of Mufasa is my father.
Oh, wow.
And then when I chose Mulan and Moana, I feel like there's the daddy issues that have manifested themselves with my choices. But it's interesting because, like, Moana, obviously I saw in the cinema. Mulan I saw on like a pirate DVD that like my dad bought in Indonesia on a trip home.
Oh my God.
So I don't even remember seeing Mulan in the cinema.
Yeah,
I remember
yeah.
seeing it on a pirate DVD.
But I remember getting those. Like, I think for my time it was like 7,000 per DVD. How much was it in your time?
I think it was around that. No.
Probably cheaper, right?
I think it was probably cheaper, actually.
Yeah.
Gitu.
Wow.
Tapi, dulu I mean, we're not here to promote piracy. But like, no, it was an era. It was an era. And it's so interesting kan, aku pernah ada conversation ini sama satu filmmaker lain, dan kayak di Mall Ambassador misalnya.
I went there
Yes.
every weekend. Okay, every day was exaggerating.
Ground floor, get into that lobby, and they're
Yeah,
all
yeah.
there. Tapi menariknya, aku malah banyak ke-expose kepada film festival lewat all of those pirate DVDs sebenarnya.
Really?
Karena kan they had like the international festival section.
They did?
Yes, they did. So like, girl, I
small.
watched
Right.
like The Wind That Shakes the Barley, like Ken Loach.
Are you
Pemenang
serious?
Tamdor. Aku beli dari Ambassador, bootleg, like. Yeah, so they had like the international festival section. So
I didn't know that.
I
That's
remember-
amazing.
yeah, so like the MTV VJ in me is like piracy, but also like, girl, it was an era that we all
I know.
needed.
I mean, we didn't have. I mean, we still don't. I think we don't have that much access to festival movies before they come out on. I don't know, streaming.
Yeah,
Or,
or
I mean-
streaming, it's limited, right? It's
Exactly.
movie or
Right.
it's like it's.
I mean, they do come out like a year later on
Yeah.
Disney Hotstar, stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm glad that CGF is like doing the hard work.
Yeah,
I think
CGV
recently.
and now what you have Click Film
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well
yeah.
and
Amazing.
VPN guys.
Yeah.
Get yourself a VPN. But no, but like so I remember watching Mulan on bootleg in my house, but it was this combination of this tomboy girl who learns martial arts, who rebels against her father, but actually seeks the
Right, right.
validation of her father. And I was like, she is me.
Is that me? Yeah.
She is me. And it had such an impact on me. And like the hottest Disney character is the general who trains her. Like that I can't remember what his name. I can't remember his name now.
How old were you?
I don't even know. Maybe I must have been like tweens, maybe. I don't know. When did it come out? I don't know. I should have done research. I should have come equipped for this. But no, I think and then like Moana, like they're both these kind of rebellious
Female warriors.
female
Yeah,
warrior
yeah.
characters. And so my father brought Pencaksilat to the UK. He opened up the first Pencaksilat class and the federation in the UK. So like I grew up doing Pencaksilat. So like
That is
and
so
we're
cool.
Bugis, and it is like this whole warrior vibe at home. Like there's
Right,
freaking
right.
badik and like Chris all in our house and stuff. And so like it felt so interesting. Like when Mulan like takes her dad's sword, and I'm like,
Right.
there are multiple swords in this house that I can take. Like it was literally like, this is me.
Wow.
And I have brothers, and I'm the only girl. So like for me, this need to always wanna like be like the boys.
Right.
And I used to do Pencaksilat. I used to spar with all the boys. So I was like, this is my film. And then Moana was interesting because it's kind of similar vibes, right?
Right.
It's far more rebellious, which in my later years I have become more. But it's more this Pacific Islander culture
Yeah.
and this seafaring culture, which is like the Bugis. So I kind of made that link when watching it, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And like the grandma character, and like, I was like, these are films that I feel like as a mixed race person, you very rarely see yourself for your mixed raceness in a lot of films. There isn't particularly that representation.
Yeah.
Apalagi di Indonesia kan,
Betul.
muka Indo banyak, tapi film atau cerita mengeksplor kompleksitas identitas sebagai mixed race jarang ada. Jadi it's interesting that as a mixed race person, I see myself in some other cultures linked to maybe it's not my ethnicity, like I'm not Chinese and I'm not like a Pacific Islander, but it's the attitude of these women that I see on screen. And that's what I like really was drawn to with those two films.
I mean, I'm just finding out about this. So you grew up in a very masculine environment, right? With your dad and then your brothers, right?
Yeah.
And then you found yourself in these characters when you were a kid. And then it's so interesting karena after, like two conversations for this podcast, and their pick for the first question, itu selalu yang mengacu ke kayak how they identify themselves as a kid while watching those movies. Yeah, so I think it's very interesting. Kayak semuanya questions-nya gitu karena, kayak my question is like, what was the first movie that made you lose it? And then you had your interpretation was, you said, does it mean I lost it as losing your virginity, or I lost it as like going completely mad?
In English, British English, if you lost it at the movies,
I know.
either you got banged there or you got angry, and I was like, this is a very intrusive podcast. Like, what do you mean?
Can you imagine though? It's still a mystery how that works, but anyways, that is for a private conversation. Yeah. But yeah, it's like what was your interpretation and like what was the feeling that you were trying to like look for in answering this question? Like, and how did you like end up with Mulan and Moana? I'm just so interested because it's like different for everybody, but I'm seeing a pattern here.
I didn't cry watching Mulan, maybe because I was younger,
right.
And
yeah,
don't cry. I cried watching Moana. I watched it and I it really felt like all of the stories that like my father had told me about like the seafaring Bugis people and like the fact that they'd reached West Africa, the fact that the first Aboriginal contact in Australia was with Bugis people.
Right.
The fact that my brother married a Fijian girl and cara berhitung dalam bahasa Fiji hampir sama dengan bahasa Bugis. Like,
no way.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm watching this film thinking of all of these things in my head. And then I'm also thinking of like the sea and how much I love the sea and how much I feel at most peace and most myself and most happy when I'm in the sea. Oh, wow. Although I also had this premonition that I will die at sea. So I'm like, so there's things like, I don't know, there's things that I watched in Moana that I'm like, man, she always has this calling.
Right.
And I've always felt that. But there's also this like traditional calling that she has of like taking over, like, you know, being a part of the community. Even growing up as the only girl in my family, the pressures of like, jaga nama baik, atau if you're diaspora Indonesian, acting a particular way and all of these kind of things. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there are so many things ternyata in my life or how I felt that, and this longing of like, there's something out there in this world that I'm not able to see because I feel imprisoned in this house as the only girl. Oh, wow. And then like when I first went to Indonesia because of my studies, it felt like the entire world was somewhat like opened up for me. And then I remember that scene of Moana when she's at the top and she's gonna put like the shell and she's looking out and she's like, there's something out there. And I'm like, girl, I know that feeling. And so it's very strange because I grew up in like inner city London. So I have like no connection to this.
So wait, so when did you come here?
I came here in 2006 for the very first time.
So you were how old?
I was 19, I think.
Oh my god, so you spent you spent 19 years.
I'm British, love. I'm a Londoner.
Oh my god. So it's like fairly not new, like you're almost 20 years in, but still.
Yeah. I mean, I learned Bahasa Indonesia tahun 2006 when I came here for like my year abroad. Like I had a sandwich course from my course in London. And then I moved here properly in 2008. Like literally 2 weeks after graduation, I was like, I don't belong here.
Oh wow.
I need to go back to the fatherland. And like, udah nekat aja kayak didn't secure anything. But my brother was here and I was like, I'm going to get a course. Right. And I was like, my dad's like, you ain't getting a course. You're living with your brother. And I was like, oh, here we go. Mau di London, mau di Jakarta, sama aja nih. Rasanya di penjara dan di belenggu gitu. But yeah, so yeah, like I always had this calling to come back.
I didn't know that. I thought like you grew up here just because you're like so in touch with, I don't know, like everything about Indonesia.
That's the work of my immigrant father, like my Indonesian diaspora father in the UK, who did not want his kids to grow up as white children, even though they're half white. Like it's very much like I think a lot of Asian immigrant parents have this fear kalau anak mereka tuh lahir di luar tanah air or like whatever the equivalent of tanah air is for these different people. They don't want their kids to grow up without having a connection to the home country.
I mean, not even yang di luar sih. I mean, I have mixed friends yang grow up di Indonesia tapi sekarang malah memilih untuk, well, they're not ashamed. I don't want to say ashamed. Tapi they're like hiding this like big part of their identity, right? Which is that Indonesian root, which I think is very, very important. Otherwise, you're like just a boring white person. I'm so sorry to say, but like you are. Without, you know, like I think it's very, the culture is very rich. And I feel like I don't know, like they're losing sense of who they are if they're not in touch with their Indonesian root.
Yeah, but I think it's different, right? Because I grew up away from Indonesia. So the idea of Indonesia becomes far more precious and like rare, and there's this longing for that because I didn't grow up around that. Whereas I imagined if I had grown up here, I'd probably be a very different person because Indonesia's at your door.
True.
It's the same like when you are like a minority, like religion, for example. Me as a Muslim person in London, I felt like it was harus lebih niat lagi menjadi umat Islam di negara non-Muslim because that's not what the standard is. But then I come here and I'm like, Muslim people here are wild. Like it's like that privilege, that majority privilege versus the minority disprivilege, and maybe that's it. Kayaknya aku kalau lahir sebagai mixed race di Indonesia, mungkin aku
bakal jadi apa ya?
Mungkin aku bakal jadi terror to society, kayaknya. Menace.
So scared.
She's like a Kemang bitch.
Kemang bitch. Go sit doc down every weekend. Just kidding.
Oh my god.
So yeah, Mulan and Moana. Like, I'm saying here, like, what about? Well, you told me like, what about them like that attracted you, and that like very early on, like you knew who you are. And I think that's a beautiful thing of like noticing yourself on screen. Like you said, like, you don't have the same race as them, tapi yet you identified with these very strong characters. And here's the thing, like I always have criticism over Disney adults, right? I don't know why.
Disney adults?
Yes.
Okay.
Those like those people who are, do you know that term? Like, no? Okay.
No.
So Disney adults to yang kaya adults who are still very obsessed with Disney. Yang kaya their whole life.
What do you mean? Well, saying like, that Disney now, fucking Zios, like free Palestine. But yeah.
Tapi maksudnya gitu kayak, dan maksudnya nggak cuman itunya doang sih. I'm very skeptical about just big studios in general. You know, like that's why with this pick, ako awalnya yang kayak, okay, how am I gonna frame this frame this discussion?
How are you not gonna judge me?
Just because, you know, like I feel like Disney too, it's like for me so far in my experience, aku ngerasanya Disney is like a very easy pick. Tapi karena I don't know why, I think aku nggak, kalau ditanya kayak did you ever lose it at the movies like over Disney gitu, maksudnya dulu kan pasti it was very maksudnya apparent gitu kayak Disney everywhere, right? Hannah Montana. Tapi never, aku tuh nggak pernah yang kayak, well, my room was pink, but then I didn't have that big interest, atau nggak ada yang sampai sekarang kayak melekat gitu loh kayak Disney gitu. Makanya jadi aku tuh sama Disney, but then as I matured, my perspective is like this is a big studio. Like I have that like attached in my mind, in the back of my mind. And so whenever I see like any Disney movies sekarang ya, at least kayak after high school, aku tuh yang kayak like there's a studio behind it who made this movie. Jadi ada kayak gitunya sih. Kayak, how do you feel about that sentiment?
I think it's a generational thing mungkin. Karena kan we're 16 years apart.
Yeah.
Almost, right?
Can you believe that, guys?
We're the same age, really. No, but we're 16 years apart.
Yeah.
Pardon me. Disney di eraku kayaknya the classics.
Yeah.
Disney pada zaman
Lion
aku
King.
tuh, maksud
Yeah.
Lion King, Peter Pan, Pocahontas, like
Animation,
Moana tuh
right.
masih yang lebih modern menurut gue ya.
Baru
Tapi
banget.
kayak Beauty and the Beast, maksudnya gue lahir dengan the classics gitu. Dan pada saat itu, we didn't have as many kids films or animated kids films. It was very much like Disney that dominated the market gitu. Jadi I think Disney at that time and Disney now, like they're very different machines gitu.
Right.
And like, so I think maybe it's also generational in that sense,
sure.
How the studio has changed.
Yeah.
It's really difficult to talk about Disney because I was thinking about it and I was like, oh fucking hell, I chose Disney films. I don't want to sit here and talk and like promote this company.
Right.
Because I'm now
Exactly.
But at the same time, we're talking about cinema, and I think if you grew up as a kid in like the 80s and 90s, there's no way kamu tidak bersinggungan dengan film-film Disney. Dan mereka memang banyak yang impact my life in various ways.
Yeah.
And where Disney goes now, I don't give a shit.
Right.
But like,
me too.
What Disney did for me when I was young with all of those classics are imprinted in my mind forever. Like Aladdin, I watched on VHS at my brother's friend's house because his mom used to look after us during the holidays on repeat. Every single day I watched Aladdin because and his father had Aladdin and Kung Fu films and like Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee films, the dichotomy. Because his father had like a VHS store. And so the Disney was for me and Kung Fu was for the boys, but I would watch both. Period. Peter Pan, I remember watching in France, in French, with my uncle and my aunt when I was on holiday.
Yeah.
Like Lion King, I remember watching... I remember watching it at the cinema and crying for the first time. And
I still cry to Lion King. I have a nephew, like a 4-year-old nephew, and then I watch it with him when he was 3, and I was like, why am I crying? Like, he's not crying, but this is so sad. Like, circle of life, you know.
Man.
It's so sad. The song still gets
everything
to you.
The light touches. I was like, like
I know.
But like,
I mean, there's no denying apa namanya kalau Walt Disney itu menurut aku still the GOAT in animation. I mean, for someone to be able to achieve something like that, it was like what? Like the first animation was 1930s, 20s. Really the start of like commercial cinema, I would say. And then he was just like there with these like characters, crazy. I mean, for kids to be able to see that kind of manifestation of someone's imagination and creativity on screen, itu menurut aku something sampai sekarang, makanya animation is very powerful. You know what I mean? Like it's, I don't know, like that manifestation of like someone's imagination and someone's inner thoughts.
Like Beauty and the Beast, the way that these magical creatures that are wardrobes and like sapolidi are like that's insane.
Like even birds singing, I think for kids it's like what the fuck, birds can sing, you know, birds can like dress you up, you know, it's insane.
If anything, like I think that's also with like Moana, for example, like obviously technology has also changed from the classics to now, and like the blues of that sea or like the colors that pop out in Moana, I'm just like
jaw drop.
Jaw drop. And like I can't, like sometimes my brain can't even process it. That's why I will choose to watch in certain cinemas where I know like kan kita maksudnya ada beberapa chain lah di sini gitu, dan kayak ada beberapa yang kita tahu lah. Karena kayak kalau nonton di sini kok warnanya nggak hidup. I don't want to watch Moana on a screen yang warnanya nggak hidup gitu.
I still want to ask you, what's your favorite cinema in Jakarta? Would you be comfortable in?
Blok M Square 21 is my absolute favorite.
Still until now?
Still until now, although I'm pissed because they put the prices up, so it's not as cheap as it used to be. And now you have all these little TikTokers with the it used to be just me and the prostitutes. Now it's like, now because Blok M Square is so popular with all the young kids, I do feel like the old grandma who's like, it used to be just me and all the I am. Like, but no, Blok M Square buat gue selalu akan menjadi kayak patokan penonton Indonesia. Dan mereka paling mempertahankan film lokal biasanya gitu. Cuman recently, because it's Blok M Square has gotten more expensive, I like to go to Hollywood. Hollywood is cheap.
Wait, where is Hollywood?
Gatsu. Gatot Subroto. You never been to Hollywood? No. Dude, back in the day, like in 2008 when I first moved here, dulu premier film tuh di Hollywood. Yeah. They have like the carpet with the steps and it feels very like grandeur.
Oh my God.
I think I went to watch, ada satu filmnya Starvision, Tora Sudiro. Film apa ya? Yang kayak dia jadi caleg atau apa gitu. Do you guys remember?
No idea.
Pokoknya ada deh film Starvision yang sama Tora. Aku ke premiernya di situ, and I first moved. And like, dulu premier tuh di Hollywood. And sekarang tuh kalau mau nonton di Hollywood weekdays masih 25,000.
Wow.
Jadi kalau mau maraton kesana aja. Karena for the price of 3 films at Hollywood, it's like 1 film at best.
I know.
And if this is not to like, they're going to be like, this bitch is so cheap. I'm like, yeah, when it comes to films, if I want to watch a lot of films and I also want to hemat, I'll go to Hollywood.
Yeah.
But yeah, tapi nonton film, this is the interesting thing, right? Kalau nonton bioskop di Indonesia tuh kita tahu persis bahwa ada certain strands of society that will go to certain films, undeniably kan gitu, dan certain bioskop.
Yeah.
Jadi ada beberapa film, misalnya kayak Ipar Adalah Maut, you want to watch it at a place where you know penonton akan heboh.
Right.
But I actually watched it at Kemang Village, where usually penontonnya nggak se-lively itu.
Right.
But that film is so freaking escandalo.
Yes.
That even like the the rich ibu-ibus of Kemang were like, anjing ya, and I'm there like,
that's amazing.
This is the best cinematic experience of last year, was watching Ipar Adalah Maut. I was like, oh my gosh.
Was it a Full House?
It wasn't. Okay. It was like me, anak palari, like
really?
one baris ibu-ibu, and I'm like, by the look of them, I'm like, oh, they're watching this film. They're not watching like a Hollywood film. And
that
the way
amazing.
they were like I was laughing my head off. I was like, oh my gosh. Tapi kan kalau lo nonton film itu di Blok M Square atau di Atrium Senen atau other places that are more like grassroots, it's so lively. I imagine it's like kalau misalnya if you're orang Batak nonton agak lain tapi di Sumatera Utara pasti pecah men gitu.
Right. Yeah.
That's the kind of experience that I want to have gitu.
Right.
Yeah.
I never thought of that. Like maksudnya kayak picking which cinema untuk mastiin your the audience environment.
Yeah, it's like if you go karaoke, you want to go karaoke with the gays. You don't want to go with the boring straight people. Like
true.
Yeah, kan?
I agree. They would need like a bunch of beers before they actually start singing.
And we don't want like Oasis to go. We want like Reza Tamefia. We want Sheila Majid.
We don't want Oasis. That's so funny.
I was like, we've completely gone so far from what the purpose of this podcast is. I'm so sorry. Cinema.
Oh my, cinema. Back to cinema, I guess. Well, I feel like we've covered Moana and Mulan, and I really want to move on to the second.
Yeah. There it is. Thank you, Disney.
I really want to touch on this film. I think it's very, very important. It's
Latin.
Okay. So yeah, you picked Latin as your favorite movie of all time.
Yeah.
And I'd seen it back in college, but I had to revisit it before our podcast.
Did you watch it again?
Yes, I did. Just the other day. I was like, I need to watch it again. My impression on this film, I didn't make this observation before in college. This is what activism in film looks like for me. I always say that everything, you know how people are like, oh my God, this is such a political movie. This is not a political movie. That's why I want to watch the non-political one. But I always say that everything is political, right? But I feel like, but not everything is activism, you know, and this film is it. You know, this is, I think, activism in cinema at its best. You know, kaya dia tuh pakai semua techniques, cinematic language untuk menyampaikan sesuatu yang menurut aku it's so unfortunate that it's still like it's still relevant. You know what I mean? It's 1994, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I mean, so what makes this a favorite for you? You know, is it the activism? Is it the subject matter? Is it the filmmaking, the style?
I think it's a combination of everything, but particularly like the first time I watched Latin was in France. I have an older brother, right?
Okay.
So, I mean, in 94, I was 8 years old. So I don't think I watched it in 94. I watched it later, but because I have an older brother and because so whenever we used to go to France, because my mother's French North African. So whenever we used to go to France, we would stay in the south of France and we would stay in my grandparents' place and they lived in a block, a smaller version of the block in Latin. Okay. So that's like La Cité. They call it HLM. Habitation, HL, loyer, M, moyen. I think it's like kayak rusun deh.
Okay.
Kayak rusun. Tapi kan kalau yang di Paris, di kota-kota gede kan huge scale seperti di lain. Sementara di kota-kota kecil seperti where my grandparents were, versinya lebih kecil dan biasanya it's not as aggressive looking or feeling gitu. Cuma rata-rata di situ yang tinggal di situ North Africans, Portuguese, mostly like people whose families came over after the Second World War to rebuild the country, which is how like geographically that's what La Banlieue is in Paris. Why there's such a big segregation between like the city of Paris, where like the rich white people live, and the suburbs where all the ghettos are, and the banlieue, the suburbs, is because the French government invited all of these immigrants from their colonies to come and rebuild France after the war, but they put them in this temporary accommodation that ended up being permanent. Which is why there is such segregation.
Right.
And so I went to those blocks. I lived on those blocks when I was with my family in France. My friends were all like North African, Portuguese, and like being Muslim, but my grandparents are Catholic, but being Muslim, there's also like but then being from North Africa, so knowing like this very like nice integration and assimilation that we have as a family.
Right.
The fact that like my brother was older, so like that teen angst, ghetto, like
right.
in a city in London, we grew up like in that kind of environment juga. Jadi there's a lot of things that I related to. And I think it's only like it's the one film that I've seen on VHS. I've seen it on bootleg. I got a torrent file of it. I got it on DVD.
Yeah.
It was only in 2021 I saw it at the British Film Institute in London during COVID. It was the first time I saw it on the big screen, and I was like, I mean, I had that feeling watching it on my tiny ass TV and my laptop, but when I saw it on the big screen, I was like, this film is next level.
Yeah.
And then I recently watched it at IFI, Institut Français Indonésien.
Amazing.
It's the first time I watched it in Indonesia.
Wow.
And it's interesting to watch it and see the reaction of Indonesians and what they think about
How
this
was
film.
it?
I mean, I watched it with Kozi.
Oh.
So Kozi was next to me and he'd never seen it.
Okay.
And I think someone had said to him, "You're not gonna like it," but he loved it. And I was like, "This film is incredible. Like for me, it's cinematic perfection, and it brings in a lot of like inner city pop culture from France, like French hip hop, breakdancing, all of these kind of things that we kind of grew up with. So like there was always this connection. And then there's little things like Vincent Cassel's grandmother telling him to go down to the shops and buy like peppers, and my grandma go and get a baguette before we go and eat. Like so there's all these little things that are just like, oh ya memang kalau hidup di daerah seperti itu dari keluarga yang seperti ini ya memang seperti itu. And then when the police come in, that's like a whole other thing. Like my brother's experienced police violence in France.
Wow.
Just because of the color of his skin, because he looks far more Asian than I do.
Okay.
Besar juga. He wears like Averex jackets or like the clothes like the kids in the films and like in the city London. Jadi kayak ada banyak hal yang relatable. Tapi as far as like what you were saying about this film being like activism, I think it's activism in the best way because it's not like I'm an activist and I'm talking about this film. It's not.
Exactly.
It's showing you through cinematic language the struggles of people to the point where it breaks your heart what happens to these characters. Yeah. And it shows the reality of these people. Yeah. In a way that is so unpretentious. Yeah. And I think that's what true activism should be. It shouldn't be like berkuar-kuar gimana. It's just get on with it and do your fight every single day. Right. And like I think maybe I always thought of it as a political film. Yeah. I didn't feel it. I was like, oh, an activist film. That's quite interesting. Yeah.
I mean, that's why that's why I love the film form so much. Karena apa ya? It's not that explicit gitu loh. Maksudnya it's different with books or YouTube videos or short form videos nowadays, right? Kayak movies force you to like really study it, read it, you know, kayak you see these characters and then as an audience, kayak you go into the movies and then you're trained to like empathize with the characters, right? and especially the protagonists, you know, evil or bad, but you're trained to like empathize with the protagonists, and apa ya, you're like not for I would say forced in a way, forced untuk follow their story. Sometimes voluntarily if you read about the movies beforehand, and a lot of times involuntarily, like you go into movies blindly, right? So I think it's like, I feel up until now, I think one of the most effective forms of activism in arts itu masih movies sih, karena I always go back to this theory by Andre Bazin. Dia selalu bilang kalau movies itu is the most complete art form karena it's audio, visual, literature, everything, and like it's the closest thing that we have to capture our reality. Wow. Right? I have the book if you wanna. If
you want to borrow it,
yeah, it's right there.
That book's getting stolen.
But anyways, like I always go back to the theory because it's true, right? Films like this, it's still effective. Like you have a screening at IFI for this one. Kaya next week, people are gonna come and people are gonna like come out of it and they're gonna be like, "Fuck! Why does it still ring so true in our society?"
It's so interesting, right? Because we have a lot of films here, particularly, for example, where you talk about specific issues,
yeah,
and some of them fall short because the intention is to talk about the specific issue,
yeah,
but forgetting that film is still about storytelling,
right?
And so the issue is not what should be. The issue should be the bonus that you get, but at the end of the day, it's a story, for example, with Laen about these three young kids, all from different backgrounds.
Yeah.
The day after a riot where one of their friends has been brutally assaulted by the police, and it's just following them.
Exactly.
And that's like but it's literally scenes where they're just sitting down chatting shit.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's so powerful because when you combine that with everything else, and I think the more I've watched Laen after being in film, the more I've realized, like, for me, it's cinematic perfection in every like sense of the word. But also it makes me want to be a filmmaker because it's that attention to detail, and it's that sensitivity, and it's that aspect of some films can be just like two people talking, and that's all it is. Yeah, it doesn't have to have a plot, right? It doesn't have to like be driven by any big life events. Sometimes it's just putting a camera and watching people speak. And I am so drawn to those kind of films and those kind of characters because I feel like you learn more about people when they're in those situations daripada when like the freaking telenovela shit that we get in our films sometimes, bloody hell, these characters without these incidents are nothing. Right. Yeah. Whereas these characters in Laen, there's this big incident, but we don't even see really that big incident except for like the opening scenes where it's like real footage of riots kan.
That's what I realized, Kaya. A lot of the times mereka tuh cuman kayak hang out in the park, like in the city square. Yeah, it's like you're just following these people, like you said.
But you understand that to be an ethnic minority youth in the suburbs in Paris where opportunities are not available to you, where there's racism, where a school system ambruk, where there's police violence. Yeah. Sometimes all you have is sitting in the park talking to your friends.
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Like, lo punya apa lagi? And I've experienced this in London. Maksudnya dengan kayak pemerintah Inggris cutting funding kepada youth club ini segala macam. Ya, lo wajar aja kalau tingkat kriminalitas antara young people meningkat karena you've taken away their youth centers. So now they don't have anywhere to go. So where do they go? They're on the street. And what happens when they're on the street? They're not in an environment that enables them to learn things in a more conducive way. Kalau nanti ada gang-gang dan mereka ketemu drug dealers, yaudah. And then they're poor. Wow. And then you're not giving them social funding. Right. So like, what do you expect? Yeah. And like Laen perfectly encapsulates that because it's in 94. Tapi kita di 2025 sekarang masih dalam situasi yang sama. And kalau kita lihat backdrop Indonesia sekarang, the day that we're talking about this, what's different in terms of
that's why I'm like
government policy, in terms of how you treat poor people, in terms of police brutality.
Yeah.
Apa sih bedanya?
Still the same thing, if not fucking worse, I would say. Because they're more transparent about it. And it's everywhere. It's televised, it's live streamed, and they're still openly doing what they're doing.
There's one scene in Latin where they're literally just sitting in like a playground, and these reporters come in the car, and the white female reporter is like, "Excuse me, young man, were you a part of the riots?" And then they come and they're like, "What? Just because we look like this, you think we're like one of the riots? Like, get out of here!" And one of them says, "On n'est pas, we're not at." And then he names like this, it's like a zoo where you could kayak taman safari. Nga di taman safari di sini yang kayak lo bisa bawa mobil dan melihat binatang gitu. And even like one of the characters is like, "What's taman safari?" He's go, "Oh, it's like a place that people like rich people go to." So like, right. And you're looking at, you're like, that was the era where you have like reporters coming with huge cameras and they see people who they think look like thugs and they assume you're this, and then there's this issue he's saying, on ressemble à des voyous pour vous, or something like that. Like, we look like thugs to you? Like, that's like one of the lines. And she's like, no, I'm just trying to do my job. I'm just trying to do my job. But then, like, in this era, everyone's got a phone.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a phone, so we don't have to rely on these people who twist a particular narrative just because of the way you look. Sekarang, apalagi di sini ya, kita bisa melihat sekarang apa yang sedang terjadi gitu. So, that's freaking powerful, and like, I think it's like a perfect time capsule of a certain era yang ternyata is timeless because we're still in that, unfortunately.
It's so crazy that we're talking about something so bad, so ugly, and we still have like the word timeless next to it. It's disturbing, frankly, right? It's like, when is this gonna be over? But I wanna ask you, like, how did this movie shape your political views, or were your political beliefs like already shaped, and then you watch this movie and I'm like, okay, that's gonna be my favorite film of all time because of how your views align with it?
Pardon me. I think my views were already shaped just from growing up like mixed race in a certain society, like inner city London, going to particular schools, not growing up with loads of money. Like, I think you already know your position. Like, when you're a minority, I think you already kind of know everything becomes political because you know, oh, gue tahu tempat gue di mana deh gitu. Sebagai minoritas di UK gitu. Jadi, watching that film, I think it just kind of like awakened something even further. I think with La Haine, it's more so that it awakened the filmmaker in me, I guess, because it's like this memperhatikan shot-shotnya, then peletakan scenes, and why like what does it do to just have this scene of two people talking? Shotnya cuma dari belakang doang nih. And then when you go to the front, there's like le monde est à nous, the world belongs to you, and you're like, and it's like that shot with the speaker and the Nikla Police, like that famous like DJ Kayla scene, and then the bird's eye. Sekarang kan kayak that drone shot. That they didn't have drones back in the day, so I'm there like, how the hell did they show this? Or the scene with the old man in the bathroom. Do you remember that scene? When mereka semua pada ngambek, mereka lagi di satu toilet in like a public mall, and it's all through the mirrors. Terus ada mereka lagi ngomongin the gun and this and that and blah blah blah. They're talking about killing the police, and then this old man comes out and he's like, "It's good to have a good shit," and then he starts talking to them, and they're like, "Why is this guy?" And you're like, "What is this?" Like,
right.
There was a thing. There's magic in filmmaking sometimes that like doesn't make sense. Or you cannot plan, but you're like, what the fuck was that? But it works.
Yeah.
And I think that's what like awakens more in me. Is like, oh, okay, kalau misalnya nanti nulis sesuatu, gak perlu deh mikir yang terlalu ribet. Yang penting memotret a time yang genuine and authentic, and then see what happens.
Tadi you said magic, and I had the word magical. Maksudnya kayak, you know, I think the word magical in movies sekarang tuh dilihatnya tuh dengan kayak, big production, you know, like CGI, big movies, loud music,
or imaginative hal-hal yang so far from realism, misalnya gitu.
Exactly, yang kayak majestic, you know. Tapi for me, until now when I watch a movie and I get that that comedic break in a way. Itu menurut aku, that is magic. That is movie magic. Kayak karena, personal taste for me, kayak my personal taste itu masih something that is very close to home. Kayak more realism in movies for me.
Yeah.
Jadi pas kayak gitu aku kayak, like you said, it's like magic for me. It's amazing. But I want to touch on this. Tadi you said kayak di sini tuh telenovela. Maksudnya kayak culture kayak gitu kan. Kalau movies, and that will excite audiences. So I want to touch on this a little bit. I feel like there's this culture of viewing di Indonesia especially. I don't want to generalize, but I think we're seeing the patterns like the movies that are coming out, dan penonton itu tendensinya untuk nonton film seperti apa, dengan marketing seperti apa, itu bisa dilihat kalau we can't really sit with silence. We can't really sit with stillness, you know, and that is, for me, is, I don't want to get too serious, tapi maksudnya it is serious for me gitu, maksudnya it's heartbreaking. It's like, you pick and choose which characters that deserve to be, that deserve your attention. Meanwhile, movie going, I think, coming into it, you should have like, full curiosity. This place of like, I just want to learn about someone different today. I want to escape for a bit. For 2 hours, I just don't want to be judged. I just want to watch a movie and see if I can relate to it one way or another. Or even just to enjoy, I don't know, like the English landscapes or like whatever. I think at least that for me, my intention of going to movies, itu kayak gitu. Or at least, I mean, we still see festival films kayak bagus-bagus dan masih ditonton gitu kan. Tapi in Indonesia, what I'm so concerned about is that it's like audiences can't really sit still with their thoughts, with deep observations about how human beings interact with one another, how human beings react to their external environment. And yeah, that's just...
Is that the case? Or do we just not give enough Indonesian films a chance at cinemas to see whether or not people actually want to watch those different kind of films? Because I had a friend who did this research, tapi untuk sinetron, dan kayak TV habits of Indonesians. Jadi kayak memang ada research yang dia lakukan di mana dia stay di daerah-daerah tertentu dan mengobservasi watching habits masyarakat di tempat tersebut. Di desa, di mana itu, dan di seluruh Indonesia. What she discovered was that kita kan, dan dulu aku kan pernah di TV, sering banget dibilang sama atasan, memang penonton kita bodoh, memang mereka suka sinetron, mereka suka infotainment, bla 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 bla. Kenyataannya waktu teman gue lagi melakukan research ini, kritik dari orang-orang di desa yang she was staying terhadap infotainment, terhadap sinetron, terhadap pemain sinetron tuh sangat vokal. Aduh, pemain ini lagi, aduh cerita kayak gini lagi.
Right.
Tapi jadi dengan orang bilang, penonton kita suka sinetron atau horror atau ini, is that because they actually like it or because all you offer them is that?
Right.
And I guess the business of cinema in this country also is a system where we're not able to really give opportunity to films tertentu, because it's a capitalism system di mana yang dipikirin adalah profit gitu. Dan kalau misalnya film ini nggak ditonton di hari-hari pertama, berarti nggak laku. Belum tentu nggak laku. Aku ingat banget ada kasusnya film Petualangan Menangkap Petir, film anak yang disutradarain sama Kunz Agus, yang main two of my bros, Ari Keriting dan Abimana. The film is so freaking good. Film anak salah satu yang paling bagus yang pernah aku nonton. Tapi karena sistem kita adalah film Indonesia tayang di hari Kamis, anak dan keluarga siapa yang akan nonton di hari Kamis? Jumat pun masih nggak bisa karena kerja. Jadi kemungkinan untuk nonton mostly would be weekend. By the time it got to the weekend, filmnya udah nggak ada.
Right.
Jadi, how much of these issues that we have are actually because the system does not allow us to explore or it doesn't allow penonton to explore other films.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I mean, platforms have that data kan, kayak Netflix atau apa gitu. Misalnya kayak film Science of Fictions, Yosef Anginun. I freaking love that film. And if you want to talk about slow-moving films sitting in silence, that's the kind of film that it is, right? Gitu. But is that a kind of film that is being pushed by a platform?
Right.
Or is it just the films that laku di bioskop, yuk kita beli dan kita ambil dan taruh di platform kita. So it's not to put blame anywhere ya. Cuman aku termasuk penonton yang mempertanyakan itu. Apakah betul-betul penonton kita hanya ingin menonton telenovela shit or horror, atau memang yang lokasi optionnya itu doang gitu. Kayak I don't know, but for me personally, aku berusaha untuk nonton film sebanyak mungkin dari genre, and then aku termasuk aktor yang cukup privilege dan beruntung bisa main di banyak genre gitu. And that's I don't think that's something that a lot of actors have been able to do. I think it's because one girl needs money, so I'm not choosy, but also like misalnya kayak punya skill silat, jadi bisa masuk ke action. Dan karena misalnya action is very heavy physically, horror kan juga heavy physically, jadi masuk ke situ. Tapi kan cenderungnya yang cewek baik-baik kan aku jarang dikasih peran-peran kayak itu. Tapi pernah sekali lah di Aruna dan Lidahnya misalnya gitu. Cuman jadi kayak you try a few different things, and as a result you end up having like a library of experiences, of cinematic experiences yang luas gitu. Kenapa kayak festival seperti JAF is so important? Because not only like sekarang kan JAF yang aku baru sekali ke sana, tapi yang aku dengar kan makin commercial, makin pop ini segala macam, tapi they also provide space for more indie films, for more social realist films as opposed to like the pop culture films atau apapun itu. Kozi sempat bikin Makassar Cinema Weekend tahun lalu. Dan itu menarik banget melihat, atau kayak di Makassar International Writers Festival yang ada di Fort Rotterdam yang di tengah kota, ribuan orang datang, tapi kalau ada screening film indie, orang nonton. Dan orang menikmati. Jadi kita nggak bisa deh bilang bahwa masyarakat pada umumnya nggak suka nonton film indie atau film kayak gini. Orang datang dan terbuka untuk nonton kok gitu. So I don't know, is it the system? I don't know.
I think my observation itu ngelihat my surroundings sih, which unfortunately sucks for me. For my selfish reasons, I would want to watch the movies that I want to watch with people, right? Sometimes I love going to the movies alone, but a lot of times I want to share that experience with someone else, being able to have that conversation after you step out of the movie theater. But then I rarely do that here because that kind of enthusiasm itu nggak ada dari teman-teman terdekat aku gitu. I mean, I have like a couple of friends yang selalu ngingetin aku kayak, hey, there's a screening at film ini gitu kan, which I'm really, really grateful karena waktu di New York it was easier for me to, it's like this screening today and then that screening tomorrow, different movies every day and great movies. Maksudnya movies yang I would say kayak, I hate this, but like real cinema, I guess, you would say.
What is real cinema?
But tapi kalau di sini kayak I'm finding it hard karena every day there's like a new horror movie, right? And I
have a new one coming out. You'll be able to watch it next week.
Wait, what is it? What is it?
Mama Pesen dari Neraka tanggal 11 September. Nggak, mungkin ini tayang udah nggak ada kali ya.
But anyways, and I always remember what my professor said waktu itu. Pernah dia ngomong, one of the lectures, dia film critic gitu kan. Terus dia ngomong gini, ever since we started calling films and shows itu content, itu we started reducing its essence. And everything started going downhill from there. And I feel like itu sekarang juga masih masih kayak bener banget, if not lebih bener lagi gitu. Maksudnya everything is content now, like, and content itu sifatnya instant, cepat naik, cepat turun, viral sedetik, and then the other second it's like another content. And it's so sad that it's the same for movies juga Gitu.
Because it's a money-making business, or more often than not, actually not money-making. That's the problem, right? Like, industri kita tuh volatile banget dan belum ada pattern that works atau belum ada what's the word, like a configuration or a system that works kan gitu. Jadi kayak it is difficult, but I don't know, I'm kind of of the opinion like test out as much as you can and then see what works. I mean, look at how incredible Sore did.
Right.
A film that
crazy
by the standards of the industry should not have done as well as it did.
Right.
Iya gak sih gitu?
Yeah.
Jadi kayak, oh itu sangat menarik. Atau misalnya film kayak Norma, which by the standards of the industry should have done far better than it actually did.
Right.
Or certain horrors that should have done far better than they actually did.
Oh
so,
shoot.
Iya kan sebenarnya.
Yeah.
Jadi kayak menurutku semestinya kita boleh ngetes apa aja gitu. But again, it's easy for me to say. I'm not the one putting the money up. But the people putting the money up want to get their money back. That's why for me, like, the biggest problem is also we don't have enough exhibitors, right? We don't have enough bioskop per capita juga kan di sini gitu.
Right.
Dan kita juga nggak punya bioskop yang really accessible. Like, aku ingat banget tuh pernah kayak aku sering banget kan dianterin ke lokasi syuting sama ojek kan gitu. Dan dulu kayak one of my langganan ojek kayak, ini film apa lagi kak gitu. Oh ini pak nanti nonton ya di bioskop. Ah nggak mau deh ke bioskop. Harus masuk mall. Harus rapi. And I'm like, he's not wrong.
Right.
There are certain people who will feel intimidated to go to gedung bioskop yang berada di dalam mall.
Betul.
Walaupun mereka pengen nonton. Like, you know what's great about like the Indian system is how there's different bioskop catered to different levels of masyarakat gitu. Ada yang high classnya, ada yang merakyat banget gitu. So I feel like, can you imagine if there was like a local cinema at like every gor misalnya?
Right.
Or
independent
like
local,
local cinema
really small,
in every like existing government building, for example, that we already have, but there's a space for you to be able to watch. Or man, if there was like a cinema above every like Indomaret or something, like they had like a screen, and it doesn't have to be something fancy. It could be for 50 people, but it enables 50 people who would not go to Block M to watch a film to watch it in an environment that makes them feel more comfortable. Like all of those independent cinemas that used to have back in the day. Kan nggak ada rasa apa ya sungkan atau gimana untuk masuk ke gedungnya untuk nonton. Itu like cinema sekarang di Indonesia adalah cater to memang elitist gitu, orang yang punya duit gitu. Tapi at the end of the day, most people who want to watch movies are not necessarily from that class. It's people who even the other day, like one of my driver go-kart kayak main film apa lagi kak gitu. Ah ini kita nonton ya pak di bioskop. Enggak, aku tunggu di Netflix aja. Sekarang aku berbayar jadi lebih murah. And I'm like, you see, there's so many complexities in our industry, and all of it comes down to money. Aku pun pindah dari Blok M Square ke Hollywood karena cari yang lebih murah gitu. Jadi kayak, and like, like I have more money than perhaps most people gitu. Well, not most people, but like, you know what I mean, right? Like,
I think it's a great time untuk bring back. Maksudnya, can you believe that the first time that cinema was invented, it was mostly catered for the working class.
Is it?
Yeah. They had those peepholes, and it was really cheap. Yeah.
See?
And then one of the first movies was this. Was it like 10 seconds or like 30 seconds less than that? It was by the Lumiere brothers, if I'm not mistaken. But yes, I'm pretty sure. So it was just like factory workers coming out of the factory. That's it. You know what I mean?
And the factory work would be like, that's me. I relate to that.
See, you know what I mean? Kaya, it was, what, 20s? 1910? Tapi that's the thing. I think it's a great reminder. Kaya, movies are for everyone.
Movies are indeed for everyone. But I find it outrageous that you can watch for 25,000 on a normal day in Hollywood, Gatsu. And then the next day, you can watch for 250,000 premiere.
It's insane.
At like an upper echelon mall.
Yeah.
That disparity is insane. So
insane.
Cater to everyone.
Literally
and
everyone.
At the end of the day, who's actually the more of the populace? Siapa? It's the 25,000s.
Exactly.
So why are we not catering more to them? so I can also benefit, please.
I think that's a great way to end this podcast.
Oh, no!
I know. But we have talked about a lot, and I've
Yeah.
loved this conversation so much. But yeah, cinema is for everyone.
Cinema is
right?
for everyone.
And thank you so much for coming here, for
Thank
being
you.
here. I've loved this discussion, and yeah, I'll see you guys on the next podcast.
See you at Hollywood.